Welcome back to Bushido Frontlines, the channel where we dive deep into the raw, unfiltered stories of warriors, battles, and the codes that define them. I'm your host, and today we're uncovering a pivotal moment that changed the world forever. Imagine a quiet summer night in 1937 near the ancient city of Beijing. A single gunshot echoes across a historic bridge, and just like that, the fuse is lit for one of the bloodiest wars in history. This is the Marco Polo Bridge Incident, the spark that ignited Japan's full-scale invasion of China, kicking off the Second Sino-Japanese War. Stick around, because we're breaking it down with gripping facts, shocking figures, and the strategies that turned a minor skirmish into a global catastrophe. If you love military history that hits hard, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let's push Bushido Frontlines to the top ranks together. To understand this explosive incident, we gotta rewind the clock. Japan, once isolated under the samurai code of Bushido, honor, discipline, and loyalty, had transformed into a modern powerhouse by the early 20th century. After smashing Russia in the 1904-1905 Russo-Japanese War, where Japan lost over 80,000 soldiers but gained control of Korea and parts of Manchuria, they were hungry for more. Fast forward to 1931, Japan seizes Manchuria from China in the Mukden Incident, a staged explosion on a railway that gave them the excuse to invade. They set up a puppet state called Manchukuo, installing the last Qing emperor Puyi as a figurehead. By 1937, Japan controlled vast swaths of northern China, with about 5,000 troops stationed near Beijing under the old Boxer Protocol from 1901, which allowed foreign powers to guard their interests after the Boxer Rebellion. But tensions were boiling. China, under Chiang Kai-shek's national government, was fractured, dealing with civil war against Mao Zedong's communists. Yet a nationalism was rising. The Chinese people were fed up with Japanese aggression. In North China, Japanese forces conducted frequent military drills, often without warning, pushing the boundaries. The stage was set for disaster at the Lugo Bridge, known in the West as the Marco Polo Bridge, because the famous explorer Marco Polo described its stunning 11 marble arches and hundreds of carved lion statues back in the 13th century. Built in 1189 during the Jin dynasty, this 266-meter-long bridge spanned the Yangding River, connecting Beijing to the walled town of Wanping. It wasn't just a crossing, it was a symbol of China's ancient glory, now about to become a battlefield. Picture this, it's July 7, 1937. The sun sets over the dusty plains southwest of Beijing. Japanese troops from the Imperial Japanese Army's China Garrison Brigade, based in nearby Fengtai, are running night maneuvers. Normally, they'd notify the Chinese 29th Army, led by General Song Zheyuan, to avoid misunderstandings. But tonight, no heads up. Around 10:40 p.m., as Japanese soldiers practice near the bridge, a few scattered shots ring out. Panic ensues. The Chinese garrison in Wanping, thinking they're under attack, fires back sporadically. Then the real trigger. A Japanese private named Shimura Kikujiro goes missing during the drill. His commanders assume he's been captured by the Chinese. At midnight, Japanese officers demand entry into Wanping to search for him. The Chinese refuse. This is sovereign territory. Tensions spike. By 3 a.m. on July 8th, Shimura turns up. He'd just wandered off to relieve himself. But it's too late. The damage is done. Japanese artillery opens fire on Wanping's walls, and infantry charges the bridge. The Chinese, armed with rifles and machine guns, hold their ground fiercely. Fighting rages through the dawn. Facts hit hard here. The initial clash lasted just hours, but casualties mounted quickly. Western estimates say the Chinese suffered 660 killed in the first days, while Japanese losses were around 96. But Japanese reports downplayed it, claiming only 10 dead, 15 badly wounded, and 19 lightly injured. Chinese claims over 180 Japanese killed or wounded. Whatever the numbers, this wasn't some random skirmish. It was a test of wills. By July 8th morning, both sides reinforce. Japanese tanks and armored vehicles roll in. They had superior firepower with Type 89 medium tanks and 75mm field guns. The Chinese 29th Army, about 100,000 strong but poorly equipped, digs in with determination. At 5:30 a.m., Japanese shells pound Wanping. The bridge falls briefly to the Japanese, but Chinese counterattacks drive them back. Ceasefire talks start. Local commanders even sign a truce on July 11th, agreeing to withdraw forces. But here's where it gets Bushido-level intense.
Back in Tokyo, hardline Japanese military leaders see this as their golden opportunity. They ignore the truce and pour in reinforcements, over 20,000 troops by late July. Chiang Kai-shek, pressured by public outrage, mobilizes.
July 27. Full-scale war erupts with the Battle of Beiping-Tianjin. Japanese forces capture Beijing, then called Beiping, by July 29th, with minimal resistance as Chinese troops retreat to avoid destruction. Figures don't lie. Japan's Kwantung Army, already 220,000 strong in Manchuria, swells to over 600,000 by year's end. China fields over 1 million troops, but they're outgunned. The incident? It cost maybe a few hundred lives initially. The war it sparked? Devastating. Over 20 million Chinese dead by 1945, civilians and soldiers. Japanese military casualties? Around 500,000. That's more than the US lost in all of WW2. Let's humanize this. On the Japanese side, soldiers embodied Bushido, fighting with unyielding spirit. One account from a Japanese officer: "We advanced under fire, honoring the emperor's will." But for the Chinese, it was about survival. General Song Zhe-wan's men, many peasants with basic training, held the line with bayonets and grenades. A survivor recalled, "We fought for our homes, knowing death was near." Strategically, Japan used the incident to justify expansion. They claimed self-defense against Chinese aggression. Sound familiar? It's classic Imperial playbook. Causes trace back. Economic depression in Japan pushed militarism. They needed China's resources: coal, iron, rice. The 1936 Xi'an incident, where Chiang was kidnapped and forced to ally with communists against Japan, unified China somewhat. But Japan struck first. Consequences? Massive. By August 1937, the Battle of Shanghai erupts, the bloodiest urban fight since WW1. Over 200,000 Chinese troops defend against 300,000 Japanese. Casualties: 250,000 Chinese, 40,000 Japanese. Then the horror of Nanjing in December 1937. Japanese troops massacre 200,000 to 300,000 civilians and soldiers, with tens of thousands of rapes. Known as the Rape of Nanjing, it's a dark stain on history. This war merges into WW2. Japan bombs Pearl Harbor in 1941, pulling the US in. China's resistance ties down 1.5 million Japanese troops, aiding allies. Without the Marco Polo spark, WW2 might look different. As the war drags on, atrocities mount. Unit 731's biological experiments kill thousands. Chinese guerrilla warfare, inspired by Bushido-like resilience, harasses Japanese supply lines. By 1945, atomic bombs ended, but China's scars run deep, leading to communist victory in 1949. Lessons from the bridge: small incidents can ignite empires. Diplomacy matters. Honor in war? It's a double-edged sword. Closing: call to action, upbeat music, show subscribe prompts. Narrator: that's the Marco Polo Bridge Incident, from spark to inferno. If this gripped you, like, share, and subscribe to Bushido Frontlines for more warrior tales. Comment below: was this Japan's biggest mistake? Let's discuss. Until next time, stay frontline strong.